When Majority, the manufacturer of the Sierra Plus soundbar, reached out to me, I was very much intrigued to get it in for review. And that's because it's an affordable Dolby Atmos soundbar. It comes in at £280 in the UK and $280 in the US. Now in this review, you can see how this 2.1.2 channel soundbar with 400 watts of total power output actually compares to its rivals, and if it's actually worth its price tag. So to kick off this review, I want to talk about its build quality, and here I must say I'm pretty impressed. At the top and at the front you've got a metal grille, so therefore protecting it from getting damaged. Then you have also got an LED display that's found at the front of it, which might seem a little bit trivial, but it's certainly appreciated in comparison to, let's say, Samsung flagship soundbars, which opt for an LED display at the top, which completely baffles my mind. But nonetheless, here Majority at the top of the soundbar have included physical buttons, which are certainly appreciated, and then you've also got a physical remote control which has got all the right controls that you're going to need, such as, let's say, EQ presets. Now you do also have a wireless subwoofer, as the name might suggest. There is no sort of connection to the soundbar as in terms of a wired connection, and I had no problems whatsoever when it came to any sort of delays. Now I would also like to give some kudos to Majority over here, because I actually found a problem with the soundbar when I first received it, and this is the replacement unit, which doesn't have that problem, which is great to see. There was a little bit of a buzzing noise that could be very easily audible when you put your ear near the soundbar, and that really threw me off. I sent the soundbar back to Majority, they replaced it, but then also gave me a detailed breakdown as to why this was the cause and how they're actually addressing it. I love seeing this from manufacturers, and it's just absolutely great to see that the customer service and also the technical department from Majority actually know their stuff, unlike what you'll find from some other manufacturers. Now moving swiftly on, I should talk about connectivity, and here it doesn't have any sort of Wi-Fi. So for example, you don't have Chromecast or AirPlay support like you'd find on some of its competitors. Nonetheless, if you do want to connect over wirelessly, you have got Bluetooth, where the SBC codec is supported only, which is slightly a shame because it's the lowest quality that you can attain. Now if you do want to up the quality, you would definitely want to go over a wired connection. Here you've got an auxiliary input, optical, and also USB, whereby the latter does even support FLAC files, which is great for audiophiles alike. Now of course you do have two HDMI inputs, which is great in comparison to some of its competitors which only offer a singular HDMI input. It's good that you can actually directly connect, let's say, your 4K Blu-ray player via HDMI, or for example another set-top box, without having to connect it up to the TV, saving yourself some HDMI ports. And or in my case, where my TV doesn't actually support Dolby Atmos, it means that I can still benefit from that heightened metadata thanks to the HDMI inputs of the soundbar. Now in terms of output, you have got HDMI ARC only, and therefore it doesn't have the uncompressed data like you'd find on the eARC standard. But personally, I don't think that's too much of a flaw given the specifications, price, and of course the setup of the soundbar. So with all of that out of the way, let's get on to a sound demo. I'll be playing back Priya J's track called Like Me, and then I'll be going to a piece to camera whereby I'll be presenting the Citroen EC4 on Totally EV. In case you want to see that car review, do check it up on your pop-up banner. Now do pay attention to the annotations on your screen, as it'll give you an indication of how the soundbar is actually set up. In other words, its EQ presets, and how that might be slightly affecting the overall sound that you can be hearing.
See that you are
fast forward to 2022, and here the French automaker offers new trim levels, specifically Descent, which we have on review, that starts from roughly 30,000. Now this makes it quite interesting to see how it compares to rival manufacturers and alternatives from even the Stellantis group. And if you want a detailed breakdown of the different trim levels that are on offer with the EC4, check out our written review that can be found down in the description below or indeed in the pinned comments. So let's kick off this review and talk about the vehicle's electric range. Now no matter if you go for the Sense, the C-Series or the Shine Plus, you're getting a 50 kilowatt hour battery pack. Now in our mixed driving conditions, we attained 180 to 200 miles, and that's actually pretty impressive for a vehicle that comes in at its price tag. Now with the audio demo out of the way, which I appreciate is not going to be ideal over YouTube, let me get on to my subjective opinion. Now first off, I should point out that I used the music EQ preset because I felt that they gave me sort of that dynamic sound and did well across the frequency range. Of course, you might prefer to use one of the other EQs if you do get this soundbar. As for my own EQ when it comes to bass and treble, I added a few notches to treble and took away a few from bass, and that is due to my room's acoustics. Again, that will differ in terms of how you are using it or in terms of your own music taste or preferences. Now, in terms of the frequency range, it actually left me pretty jaw-dropped. First off, in terms of the sub bass, that subwoofer delivers excellent low-end tones, giving you that rumble when you're watching movies, or of course when you're watching or listening back to your favorite tracks from D&B, R&B, or let's say EDM. You're going to be really left excited. But better still, the mid bass has plenty of quantity and quality. Here, the amount of punch you get gives you that sort of excitement, and yet it doesn't feel sort of uncontrolled and wobbly like you'd find on some cheaper soundbars out there on the market. It really does an excellent job. Now here, given you think that, well, you've got a lot of bass emphasis, the mids are going to be automatically recessed, but thankfully that wasn't the case. The overall vocals that I attained from the Sierra Plus really kind of left me surprised. I was not expecting such great quality. It seems to outperform a lot of its competitors and in fact far outweigh some of its more expensive rivals, so in other words, ones which cost almost double the price. Indeed, it was that impressive. Vocals on tracks, or when I was listening to, let's say, the news or watching back my review of the Citroen EC4 on Totally EV, I didn't feel that it was drowned out. I actually felt quite engaged with the vocals that were coming out, and therefore the overall mid-range from the lower mids to the higher mids do really, really well. Now as for the highs, they do extend pretty well, although they're a little bit rolled off at the top end, so you don't get that extra bit of zing. You can adjust the treble EQ, but then it does get a little bit sibilant and harsh, so here I would say it's potentially one of its major flaws, or one of its biggest flaws, but really it's not too bad whatsoever, and I was still left pretty excited and left my toe tapping to my favorite tracks. Now what really took me by surprise more than anything so far was the overall soundstage reproduction. Now for me to get into a bit more detail, I'm going to go on to a Dolby Atmos demo. I'll be using Dolby Atmos tracks, and then I'll be flicking on and off between Dolby Atmos and also going between the different EQ presets as well, to give you a little bit of indication of how the movie preset compares to, for example, the music one, and how it compares to, let's say, the 3D one.
You won't just hear glass break. You'll hear a slightly battered and bruised baseball fly past your right ear as a cloud of debris blooms and shards of glass trail overhead. Just before gravity takes hold, scattering chaos to the four corners of the room. While the sound of a scared little kid running like hell fades away in the distance. You won't just hear glass break. You'll hear a slightly battered and bruised baseball fly past your right ear as a cloud of debris blooms and shards of glass trail overhead. Just before gravity takes hold, scattering chaos to the four corners of the room. While the sound of a scared little kid running like hell fades away in the distance.
Now, I'm not sure how much you were able to attain via that Dolby Atmos demo, but I can certainly say when sat in front of it, I was left absolutely jaw-dropped. It provides that great sort of width and depth, and also the amount of instrument separation that you get via the Sierra Plus is far superior than a lot of its competitors. In fact, I'd rank it among one of the best out there, specifically at its price point, beating the likes of, let's say, the Samsung HW-Q700A and ones from JBL, like the JBL Multibeam 5.0, which has virtual Dolby Atmos. Now here the soundbar indeed has got fully fledged Dolby Atmos thanks to its upward firing drivers, and that will give you that sort of room filling experience. In fact, you don't have to really dial it up all that much in terms of the volume because it gets really plenty loud and should fill a pretty large space as well. Now, of course, Dolby Atmos is great in terms of the increased metadata over Dolby Digital and also PCM. But let's say, for example, you're watching regular YouTube or terrestrial TV, which doesn't use Dolby Atmos and instead is using Dolby Digital or even PCM. Here, yet using the lowered metadatas in comparison to Dolby Atmos, you're still going to get a real room-filling experience, and one that will really leave you impressed. At least it did for me. I was listening back to my favorite tracks over YouTube, and yet I didn't feel like I was missing out on too much. It really was super good, and in comparison to its competitors, was definitely one of its key selling points. Now, ultimately, what I'm trying to portray over here is that the overall sound quality, including the Soundstage, is absolutely phenomenal. In comparison to its competitors from the major brands such as, let's say, Panasonic, Sharp, JBL, Denon, and Samsung, it's far superior. And I really wasn't expecting to come into this review singing so much praise about the majority Sierra Plus, but I'm glad that I actually tried it and got it in for review and took a punt of this company I'd never heard of before, because I can seriously see myself recommending it. As a result, it gets my Best Buy award. It's very, very easy to go out there and get this because it undercuts its rivals, offers Dolby Atmos, and still gives you phenomenal sound quality. Now, that's my thoughts about it, so I'd be intrigued to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. And if you've liked this independent detailed review, definitely do drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification, all of which are greatly appreciated and allows me to continue delivering honest reviews like this one. As such, I've been Totally Dubbed, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.